listening to that daily progress of the Russian invasion of Ukraine and watching the television footages of the bombed out apartment buildings and schools. There's over 1 million refugees that are fleeing Ukraine, and they're mostly women and children and the elderly, because the men were staying behind to fight that 40-kilometer long Russian army convoy headed towards Kyiv. It's stalled. Some of the vehicles are just bombed out, sitting there blocking the path. And the Russians bombed the largest nuclear power plant in Ukraine. I mean, it's like, all of these things that triggering all of these things from the 1980s, when everybody was, thinking about bomb shelters and everything. And so we've got the US and NATO allies. They're strategizing how to get military aid, including fighter jets, over to Ukraine without triggering World War II. Right? All of this is just going on. And I was particularly affected by a young woman who had attended college in the US for 5 years. They were interviewing her, and she returned to Ukraine a few years ago, and her grandmother had died in Kharkiv, and she was fleeing herself. And so she tearfully told everyone, be grateful when you can see the wide open blue sky and you're not hiding in the basement. Tears in her eyes. And so all of this is going on, and there was a part of me that, I was working on my talk, and, how do we find peace in all of this? And I was empowered, and it was soothing in some ways, to hear President Biden, where he gave his talk before the Congress State of the Union. And almost a third of his talk was dedicated to the Ukraine. Democrats and Republicans actually found themselves united and standing to applaud the Ukrainians in their efforts to valiantly defend their country and their freedom. Unity was starting to come. Everyone also was applauding Ukraine's president, Vladimir Zelensky. He had chosen to stay and lead his citizens in his country rather than to leave to protect his own life, right? Before being elected president, Zelensky earned a law degree, and then he pursued a career as a comedian and as an actor, a film producer. And he had starred in a TV show called, of all things, Servant of the People. He played the president of Ukraine, right? So with this unusual background, Zelensky's been elected to passionately speak for the Ukrainian people with their love and their pride for the country that they hold so dear. In the 30 years of freedom, they have become the Silicon Valley of Europe, and they are the breadbasket and have always been that for many years, for decades. And the Ukrainians have this deep connection with this creative spirit within them that is manifesting as the resourceful spirit and the resilience, and provides Zelensky and the Ukrainian people with that feeling of willingness to speak truth to power, to be fully present, to stand for what they believe in, for their freedom, and knowing that freedom of life with its greater possibilities. They don't want to go backwards, they want to go forward, right? And it's the power of knowing who they truly are that is unshakable in the face of discord and the Russian invasion. They know it, and they're making a stand, and it's even spreading to Russia. The people of Russia are making a stand for what they want. They know that there is a way of unity. When we look at all the economic sanctions, there's all this interaction that's going on in the world, and we are intertwined worldwide in our finances and in our cultures in so many ways. And so it's playing it out. The Christian mystic, Christian Larson, he said, believe in yourself and all that you are. Know that there is something inside you that is greater than any obstacle. And that inner freedom of knowing that truth in the midst of discord, of knowing that divine power and presence of love within us, it's in us, and it's expressing itself in us, through us, and as us, that sets us free. And so I knew all of this as I was working. And so, but it takes a toll on us to go through all of this emotional up and down and to really protecting ourselves and working it through. And so, as I was working all the hours, handling the center's business and teaching class this week and working with Savannah to get the videos updated. And we have a Easter egg hunt, flyers going out, and we're pursuing refinancing our mortgage. So the list goes on and on and on and on, right? And so by Friday afternoon, I was just exhausted. I still had things to do and I was trying, but it just, the adrenaline was gone, right? Without a day off in several weeks, my proficiency had just gone to 0. I was wasting my time even trying to be here. So there was no reserve to call upon. So I decided, asked myself, what do I do? My body just said, no more. So being stopped dead in the water is not a great feeling, right? It's not who I am. I felt overwhelmed and continually trying to work was a lost cause. And so intellectually, I knew that God never asks more of us than we can handle with God's help and assistance. But here I was, this was too much. So finally, I just let go of all my seemingly useless efforts. And I took that time to turn within, right? What do you do when you can't do anything else? You just stop and breathe. So I was breathing in and out. Go through the mantra, God is all there is, right? And where is God in the midst of all of this, right? In the midst of the Ukrainian invasion, in the midst of this long to-do list, back to the mantra. There is one life. That life is God. That life is perfect. And that life is my life now. My breathing slowed and I let go some more. And I felt loved. A deep, abiding love. It's that love that Angelica sang about this morning in I Am Divine Love. It's that universal love, the one love that expresses itself as all of us, that unites us as one. This is who we truly are, that divine love expressing. And I knew also that I was loved just as I am, with all of the feelings of being exhausted and unable to move forward, imperfectly imperfect. And I knew that I was not alone. And so the thought that occurred to me next is that, the March CSL theme is spirit of play. How can I write a talk about spirit of play in the midst of this war? I mean, it just felt irresponsible and callous. It's a somber, sad, and trying time. Just didn't seem right to have fun and to be silly, right? I should just keep, stiff upper lip and just keep going, right? And Spirit waited patiently for me and assured me that the infinite power and presence in the universe was also present in Ukraine and in Russia and in the UN, as well as right here and now with me. The same Spirit. It knows no big and small. And that although it didn't quite yet show on the surface, perhaps, I could trust and know that that healing power of divine love and peace was moving in and through and as each and every person affected by this unfolding conflict. Love is the ultimate outcome of all of this, whatever process it goes through. And the visions of the brave Russian people protesting in the streets against the war came to mind. Even God was present there. Right? So what is mine to do right now? Well, my next thought was of my loving husband at home, waiting for me to return home and share a Friday evening with him. Right? I thought of sharing a pleasant dinner and baking a yummy dessert together. Right? I thought of watching a fun movie and laughing together and just letting it go for a moment. It's not my responsibility alone to solve this war, right? God is in charge. You know, everything else could wait until tomorrow, right? A night off to play, to be creative and joyful would refresh and renew me. So it was a joyful evening. We baked some macaroon chocolate brownies. Yummy, right? A little bit of experimenting and that feeling of being creative. Oh, it's just there. And we watched a heartwarming movie called Coda that has won several awards. Children of deaf adults that are hearing. Right? It's an amazing movie. It's about a high school senior girl who is the hearing daughter of two deaf parents, and she dreams of studying singing at Berklee School of Music in Boston, which is one of the top places. I've been there. And so Michael and I watched it and we laughed and we laughed. So if you want a good heartwarming movie, it's a great one to watch. It's on Apple Plus. And I did feel refreshed and renewed. And I felt reconnected with that creative spirit of the divine within me. And so the next morning, Saturday morning, I was ready to resume working on my talk and get ready for Sunday. I was grateful to be dancing with spirit again. And as I was living freely as an individualized expression of the divine one life that is God. This is what it really means to be fully alive. You know, and in our first slide, I had found freedom in the midst of what had seemed to be discord. There we go. Well, we'll get caught up to me. Why don't you get caught up with me with that slide, Michael? So the one that the title slide for my talk. There we go. There it is. All right, now we're in sync. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of time to get in sync, right? We don't need to stress. And so God sings all of the songs. I'm not quite here yet, Michael. But in Science of Mind, we talk about the power and presence of God. In the Science of Mind textbook glossary, Ernest Holmes wrote, "To meditate upon the presence of God is to draw the universe into one's own soul." All right. We're opening up our heart to connect with spirit. It's already there, but we're opening it up so we see it and we feel it. And God is not a person, but a principle personified in each of us, Holmes says. It's that principle personified or individualized in each of us that is that life force that is expressing itself in us, through us, and as us. And we heard in the reading that Carol shared with us today that it is from the Anatomy of Prayer. This is a quote from him. God sings all the dances, dances all the dances, paints all the pictures, creates all art, writes every book, plays every game. You know, as I was baking the brownies, I was conscious of creating together with God, that infinite and playful spirit. You know, instead of plain brownies, we would bake macaroon brownies, and we had just enough coconut to make the recipe. It was great. And in the Coda movie, the teenager Ruby Rossi is the leading character. Her family, she and her family, they take time out with all the things that are going on in their lives, and they're pretty crazy. But they take time out to be fun and be joyful, and it's quite a wonderful experience just to have that freedom. When they take the time out, we can be free with them, right? And so being joyful is a spiritual experience. There's a psychologist, PhD psychologist named Victor Shamas. He's the executive director of a nonprofit called Play Haven, that they promote creative play for people of all ages. In 2016, he had retired from being a professor at the University of Arizona. He taught for 22 years there. And much of his teaching and research has been investigating the relationship between creativity and consciousness, right? And play. And he said, play is a sacred act. This is a new slide. When we are playing, the essence of all creation flows freely through us. We are expressing our true nature and connecting with the very core of our existence. Nothing is more spiritual than that, right? Play is so spiritual. I mean, it's one reason when children are small and they play, they just seem so carefree and they're just fully present. I mean, when we're playing with children, we have to get down on the floor with them and just be fully present, right? I remember when my stepdaughter was she was about 3 years old at the time, and so I she wasn't really getting that I loved her, and the even though I'd been in her life for a couple of years by then, and then I got down on the floor with her, and we just started playing, and it was like we broke through that barrier between us. She got it that I loved her, and I got it that I was love, and that I didn't have to be so serious all the time. I could just be free and be fully present as love, right? You know, when we play, we're connecting with the very core of our existence, the very core of who we are. Our essence is joy. It is love. And joy and love are qualities of God. We're expressing the God within us. So in this morning's reading again from Ernest Holmes, he said, all great writing, all great poetry, great music, all great acting, all great everything is done under the inspiration of that thing which is the only final dancer, the only writer, the only thinker, and the only doer there is. So when we let go and we laugh, we let go of all pretenses, all masks that we may have been wearing to disguise who we are from each other and from ourselves. Right? We let spirit all the way in. We are dancing with the infinite, dancing and moving as one. No one knows us better without any filters, because this is our creator. It has created us from itself. So we get to experience spirit in its everyday wonder when we play. We are free to live life joyously. Teilhard de Chardin, in the next slide, said, joy is the infallible sign of the presence of God. You know, these deep qualities of love, joy, and freedom flow naturally from our deep connection with spirit within us. In our next slide, in the Declaration of Principles in Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes says, we believe that heaven is within us and that we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. Whether it's always there, but we experience it to the degree we become conscious of it. We also believe the ultimate goal of life is to be a complete freedom from discord of any nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. Right? This is that life force, that persistent life force that is continually seeking to flow through. You know, there's the grass when it insists on growing up through the crack in the pavement, right? That life force is coming forth, and we can rely on that. There's a story I'd like to share that talks about the power of play and creativity to connect us with God and with ourselves. When Brian, a man, his grandmother died, it was very sad because he'd been close to his grandmother. And so he sat down at the piano, her piano, and played for the first time in 13 years. You know, when he was a teenager, he'd given up piano lessons because he was into sports and all those manly things, right? And he'd always intended to get back to the piano, but never quite got around to it. So just before her death, his grandmother said, I wish I had spent more time playing my piano. And that haunted him. And so, needing to distract himself from her absence, he found a simple YouTube video on playing piano, and he watched it and started playing around. And that soon became a weekly piano lesson. And within a few months, he was doing well enough that his teacher asked him to perform at the winter recital, something he'd never done before. Now, nothing quite prepares you to be an adult in a room with 14 other children at a piano recital And you are the only one that's, over 4 feet, right? But he did it. And he played in front of an audience a song that had a personal meaning to him, right? Reminded him of his grandmother. So at the reception afterwards, it was juice and goldfish, very appropriate. A little girl came up to him and she said, "When I grow up, I want to be just like you." And so it's that creativity that he had allowed out when he played that song that she felt, she connected with it, right? And so it is that spirit that unites us all as one, right? His takeaway: you're never too old to try something that you love just for yourself. And you might just find yourself feeling joyful and free and connected with spirit in the midst of discord. Let's take this to prayer. And so I know that there is one God, one power, one presence in the universe that is the infinite, invisible, the Almighty, the light that lights every person's path. It is the creative force that dances all dances, sings all songs, paints all pictures, writes every book, plays every game. And it is that presence that is the very life force that is breathing us. It is breathing me. It is breathing each one of you. It is breathing every being on this planet. And that light shines forth from our heart as who we are. We are the light. It is the light that shines through us. As you believe in the possibility of your own soul, believe it is God. As you believe in God, believe in yourself. For we are one. And so there is wholeness. This divine presence heals us and brings together all of the parts of us as one. We want for nothing. It is all there within us. It is our job to let it out and allow God to express through us, to listen to that inner guidance and be fully present. It is the work, it is all of life, and it is in the play. It is that time to be refreshed and renewed, that flow of spirit that is always there. Whatever we need, endlessly flowing through us, in us, and as us. It is that freedom to be who we are, to be that highest expression of who we are on this planet. It is that joy, the joy of simply being alive, the joy of sharing with God in the eyes of the person next to us, to share with a child and play, to share with an adult and play, to share with the clouds and our dog or cat or the thought that plays in our mind. It is all God and it is all good. And as we are in this moment, all discord is dissolved, washed away, clean, clear. It has no power unless we give it power. And so we let go and let God be the power in our lives. And we see that in our lives, healing our lives. There is peace in our hearts. There is peace in our world. There is peace everywhere on our planet. It cannot be suppressed. It is the lasting power. It is the Alpha and the Omega. It is here with us always. And so we know that people are coming together for peace as one, to love and to appreciate each other as people, as one life force, as the light that illuminates the world. I am so grateful to know this, to see this, to experience it, for my heart to be open and accept it as the truth, the peace that passes all understanding. I dance with the infinite. I am free. How glorious to be alive. How glorious and joyful to be here present. And so I let go and let God make it so, without any hesitation or restriction. And it is good. It is great. It is full of joy. And so it is. And so I let it be. Amen.